Hi, my name is Austen. I'm the main host and GM of the Beer and Pretzel Podcast. We're a one-shot role-playing game podcast where we play different one-shot role-playing games that aren't the world's biggest RPG. We play them, we do reviews of the games that we play, and we also chat with game creators about their games. Today, I'm here with two of the creators of Cyborg, which is a new nano-infested doomsday RPG about cybernetic misfits and punks raging against a relentless corporate hell. I'm here with Johan Nohr and Christian Sahlén, the authors of Cyborg. First of all, congratulations on the big first week for Cyborg, as it went very much above and beyond its target goal, as me and many people in the RPG community are super excited for this to come out with how great Mork Borg is. In creating this game, though, obviously the genre is very different. The book will be also longer, I've heard. But what mechanically has changed since Mork Borg? How much new content in terms of not really the setting or theme, because of course that's going to be different, but structure and mechanics-wise, will there be? As I heard, Johan, you've said in another interview that this is definitely not just Mork Borg in neon colors. I guess we'll start with Christian.
Yeah, rules wise, it might be just Mork Borg in neon colors actually, because we're not changing much, except we're of course adding rules for automatic fire, because Mork Borg didn't need those, of course, and things like that. But rules wise, otherwise we add one ability, knowledge, as like one of the basic abilities, just to get like tech use and stuff like that in there. Otherwise, the core is the same.
This makes it also backwards compatible, and compatible to not only Mork Borg, the core book and the official stuff, but also all of the hundreds of third-party releases that exist.
Close to 1,000, yeah.
Close to 1,000, yeah. Mechanically, it's mostly like details that add that cyberpunk theme.
So there'll be, of course, in Mork Borg, it's more about writing for that kind of genre. In this, you're taking the same rule set, sort of, but you're just applying it to the genre. So I'm sure there'll be like cybernetics rules and stuff like that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So we're adding. There's cybernetics. There's of course all sorts of gadgets, and there's hacking and the nano powers, but those kind of work like not exactly like spells or powers from Mork Borg, but in a similar way, I guess, like an alternative option for powers.
Extra like tools and skills and powers that you can have. That's just cyberpunk themed. Yeah, kind of like how we don't have magic weapons and magic items and potions and scrolls, but we have other things that are similar but not the same.
Yeah, technology-based items instead of magic.
Right, yeah.
Yeah. And is it true that I heard that Mork Borg was a pretty thin game, awesome game, but on the thinner side, which a lot of people liked? I heard, though, that this is going to be, I'm not sure how much bigger, but this is a bigger game, though, right?
It's about twice the pages, I guess. But that's not because we have added twice as much rules or anything like that, but we added a lot of tables randomized for randomizing all sorts of things. Johan went crazy with all the art. So there's a lot more just full page art stuff in there. And I think the adventure turned out to be a bit longer.
Yeah. But mostly it's just the tables, as you mentioned.
Okay.
Yeah, tables and arts, and of course those are free to ignore, or just read through once and be inspired by. It's not like you have to use more pages. If you look at the core rules and what you're probably using at the table, it's the same, really.
Makes sense.
I think it's more like focused on having like more game out of the same book, or like having longer, not necessarily longer campaigns, but just to get more mileage out of the book. Because Mork Borg was, as he's mentioned, quite thin, and you didn't need much more than it. And I don't think you need more here, but it's just more inspiration and more stuff for you to build your own game out of.
Basically. So kind of like how with Mork Borg, a bunch of third-party content came out afterwards that added a bunch. Like Mork Borg has a lot of really, really cool tables in it, but afterwards, a bunch of really cool tables came out by other RPG creators and hackers. So it sounds like right from the get-go, there's gonna be a lot of tables to play around with. So maybe for at least a little bit, people would be more focusing on creating their own content with like maybe monsters, or maybe not monster stats, but stats for creatures and weapons rather than different tables, as this has a lot of that already in it.
It's kind of similar, actually. I just thought about it now. It's kind of as if we released Mork Borg and Mork Borg Cult Territory at the same time in one book, because it's like all of these extra content that you don't necessarily need. Yeah. It's just nice to have.
Gabriel on Facebook, he asked me to ask you guys his question was, how would you name Cyborg's genre? Is it cyberpunk or something else entirely? Also, is there a stance against corporatism in it?
It's a very political game, and I think that if you, for example, glance at our Spotify or music inspirational playlist that we released, there is a reason why the first track is called "Shock Treatment Against Corporate Control." It's very clearly, it's very clearly against that sort of thing. And I guess we can call it cyberpunk. I mean, that's most of it. We're trying to do cyberpunk with a focus on the punk part, I guess, and I mean, not less focus on the cyber part. But there's also this kind of weird stuff going on as well, I guess.
Sure.
Yeah, there's a lot of like esoteric things underneath the cyber sort of the surface, and a lot of body horror in it. But that sort of goes with the cyberpunk genre, I guess. I'll definitely call it cyberpunk.
Johan, your art is what makes Mork Borg and now Cyborgs one of those games that, at least for me, is kind of like, it would be a disservice to have just a PDF on. It's a unique stylization is kind of the huge part of what makes Mork Borg and now Cyborg. As just look at the Kickstarter, your art looks incredible, and I love the color use in it. I feel like all artists have a point where their style comes into fruition, a creative artist, be it like when filmmakers find their unique style, or writers find their writing voice, or in this case, the stylization behind your own art. When and where do you think that this was kind of like born within you, when you kind of found your artistic voice?
What a question. I think I think it actually might have been with Mork Borg that I found this sort of style, or that I felt confident enough to sort of pursue it and not try to fiddle with all the details and finalize it too much, because this sort of raw, sketchy style seemed to work. It's like the cover, say the cover image of the first Mork Borg book was not even supposed to be the cover image. It was just one of the sketches that we used for marketing material, and then people liked it so much, and they said, "Oh, what a nice cover!" And then we put it on the cover, and that sort of became the standard for the whole artistic style that I used. And I think I've had sort of a creative boom with this thing, which is very fulfilling and fun, and for me personally.
So would you say that your artistic style was not sort of like this before Mork Borg? Like you kind of like created this for the game?
It was in a way, but it wasn't as defined, I think. I think the sort of sketchy rawness was always there, but I hadn't really found it before releasing Mork Borg. I guess I was still, I don't know. This sounds pretentious, but I was still like trying to find my, creative voice in a way.
I get that.
But speaking of that, I mean, with Cyborg, I try not to follow the exact same style, and I try not to do the same thing. And so it was actually a bit of a struggle for me to find the style for Cyborg, because I wanted it to be different, but also like related to Mork Borg. But I think what we have is something new and unique, at least for me.
And this is kind of a side question to Cyborg, talk about Mork Borg. I was just looking at the books I have for Mork Borg today, and I just love the bright, like, canary yellow, or what I kind of see as like the Italian giallo films, the older like 70s and 80s murder mysteries that have that kind of like bright yellow backdrop. What was it? Was it you? Was it someone else that came up with, hey, maybe we should make the theme of Mork Borg like yellow, and why did you guys pick that? I love it, but I'm wondering how you guys came up with that.
It's kind of an odd color actually for like a doom and black metal themed game, but I think it was one of the because we wanted it to be like a punk scene almost and have that sort of aesthetic. So it was like a mix of this metal and punk vibe. I just wanted to experiment and try to make a book that was very loud, and so I used the most obnoxious colors that I could find and the most screaming colors. So and it just kind of worked. I don't know.
Oh, it definitely
And
does.
you didn't have an RPG book in Jello, right?
That's that's actually true. I looked at my shelf and they were all like, dark and black or red or brown or something like that, all the spines of the books. And so I wanted a book that you couldn't hide in your bookshelf.
Huh.
And it seems to work because every time I see like a shelfie of people, if they have a Mork Borg book, you will see it because that shit just screams.
It pops. It really
It
does.
pops and it literally glows in the dark as well, so you can't hide it.
Christian, how did you get into writing RPGs, but also, of course, this? Because I found that you actually are on the Mork Borg website of having wrote a couple things for Mork Borg, but I was wondering how you got into, maybe not just RPGs in general, but how you got into writing for role-playing games, and this game in particular.
Yeah, I started playing way back when I was 10 or 11 or something like that, and got into running games pretty early. And me and my friends who were playing at that time, we never really got into buying adventures or anything like that, or modules. So we just made up our own, and created our own. And that's how I've been gaming since then. But I didn't really write anything other than things for my actual gaming group, which was usually a close knit group of friends, I guess. But then I think it started sometime around Dungeons and Dragons 3rd edition. Me and a couple of friends started running like pickup games at conventions. And I kept doing that, I guess, and started to bring my own material, and people that were not my friends seemed to like it. So lately I've been trying to put more of my adventures out there, I guess, for others to enjoy as well. Part of just free PDFs or competitions, mainly in Swedish. But lately then since I guess last year in English as well. And
Had a
some
few
of them for
releases
sale.
now lately. Yeah, all the
Exactly.
scenarios.
So yeah, I have about six pamphlets and a 24-page sign for sale. Hopefully soon also available in the US locally, but more on that in the future, I think. But gaming wise, Cyborg is the first full game, I guess. It's not the first I write. It's the third, I guess, but it's the first that is released.
I heard that you came up with this because you were looking for a cyberpunk role-playing game, but there was not really anything that kind of piqued your interest, really. So you kind of took Mork Borg, broke it down into your own game, and then you kind of presented it to, I believe, Johan, actually, and was like, hey, maybe we could do something like this.
I mean, me and Johan, we're part of the Stockholm Cartel since a long time, and we've known each other for a longer time. So that wasn't, I guess, so strange. But yeah, I really wanted to. Back in 2019, I really wanted to run a cyberpunk game in 2020 because of Cyberpunk 2020. But when I looked at the available rule systems or the ones I had around, I couldn't really find anything that suited like the rules light. My preference for rules light systems. And Cyberpunk seems to be the style of most Cyberpunk games are kind of crunchy. And I wanted to get away from that. So since I couldn't find anything, and I just gotten the playtest version of Mork Borg, I started adapting that, and from the start, it was mostly like adapting it to run it myself. But the more I just started working on it, the more I realized that this might be fun for others as well. So I reached out to Johan and Pelle, and here we are, I guess.
Yeah, and just a correction, you didn't ask like, hey, should we do this? You said we are going to do this. Basically.
Yeah. Okay.
Here we are. And then that was awesome. We announced
Yeah.
we made the first teaser announcement November 13 last year, so about a year ago. And so I think since then probably I got involved. That was first when I got involved in this. And so
Yeah,
by
pretty
then we
much.
had most of the text ready, and then we just edited it and fiddled with it some more.
Yeah, the playtest campaign was full on
It's
the
over,
way.
right? It was on the way, yeah.
Yeah, we were in the middle of it or something.
Sean Danger on Facebook asked us an interesting question for you guys. Was that he said, "Do you think techno fetishism is a necessary hallmark of the cyberpunk genre? Why or why not?"
I would say that you should be careful not to let it be too important, because, I mean, personally, I think cyberpunk shouldn't necessarily be about the cool tech and what it can do, but it should be about what it does to people and what it does to like society, and what the backs or the downsides and the what really is the worst consequences of this tech, and who owns it and what they use it for. So I think a lot of cyberpunk games, they end up being this long list of just cool gadgets and tech without thinking too much about it.
And most of them also have like 5 versions of the same thing, but they're like made by different megacorps or something, and therefore they provide a plus 1% extra bonus here or something like that. And of course, that's not really the style of Mork Borg, and therefore it's not also the style of Cyborg, because with a light rule system, you can't really add that kind of granularity to it. So we don't go into listing, I don't know, 15 different automatic rifles or anything like that.
Christian, when DMs run your game next year, what would be the ideal setup to put the players into the world of Cyborg? Any recommendations on music, sound effects, or what they should read, watch, or play to kind of get their head in the mindset to run Cyborg? And as like a side question to that, if a DM had like an unlimited budget to create the best Cyborg setup ever, what would that look like? And what should, like I said, what should DMs check out to prepare themselves, besides reading your book, to run Cyborg?
Music-wise, we have a pretty solid playlist. I'm a lot of into noise and industrial and that sort of thing, or just experimental, weird electronic or acoustic noise and drone and stuff like that. But there's more to it than that as well. There's synthwave and all sorts of things, and I think that the world of Cyborg is really varied. There's, I mean, if you can just travel one door away and you go from some kind of alley where people are fighting into a nightclub with whatever is going on a nightclub, and then the next door over is some fancy restaurant with maybe a string quartet or something. So I mean, all of that can be in Cyborg, and I think that mix and juxtaposition and variations are important to get the feel right. But you should probably start out with some heavy industrial or something like that, and be angry at the state of the world that we are currently in, because that's a lot of what Cyborg is about. Because your PCs have it even worse in the Cyborg future.
I agree.
And
I think you should put on our playlist some heavy industrial or noise or some D-beat punk, and you should watch like Dread or Akira, and you should just be doom scroll for 10 minutes and then play.
yeah,
Pretty much.
yeah, exactly. That sort of thing. just listen to the news and then add some, I guess, occult themes to it, and go wild.
And have fun. Yeah.
Dread is a good option, except the protagonist is a cop, so.
Oh yeah, that part. But the and the like world building of it.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean,
absolutely.
think Dread, but like Dread is the end boss of the adventure.
In Mork Borg, something I found that was really unique is where the book instructs you on the seventh misery to not only kill off the world, but to burn the book too, which is something I'd never seen in an RPG before, of course. Was there something you guys did sort of like that, or is that something we have to wait and see to find out?
There's a version of the miseries in Cyborg that is called miserable headlines instead. So it's presented as headlines that you wake up and you read in your RCD, or you get hooked into a feed of. And the RCD is the retinal communications device that's kind of do everything your current smartphone does, but cooler and better, I guess, and beamed straight into your eyeballs.
Yeah, exactly. Plug into your brain.
There is something happening when you roll up the seventh one. And I don't. We're not really talking about what yet, but there is something. But I don't think we recommend anyone to burn the book, because that would be stupid. Because you might need it later.
Yeah, it makes sense. And yeah, it looks like a beautiful book, so it would be a shame to burn it. Something also that I really like about Mork Borg is that it allowed people to, with the third-party license, to hack their own modules, monsters, items, weapons, that sort of thing, which has led to some really, really cool, incredible creations.
Oh yeah.
I assume, but maybe not, is that the plan to carry over to Cyborg? And if so, what are you guys hoping to see out of the third-party community for this game?
We haven't really talked about like a specific license for Cyborg, but I think right now the Mork Borg license kind of covers it in a way. I mean, you can still produce stuff and call it compatible with Mork Borg, like in parentheses Cyborg. But we're gonna figure something out, I think, just to make it more.
Absolutely. Yeah. There will be something, and it's gonna be very, if not an exact copy, it's gonna be very, very similar to the Mork Borg thing, for sure. And what we want to see, I limited myself on the amount of cybertech I put into the game, for example, just because I didn't want to cover everything, because I wanted to cover the biggest and most important stuff, or the things I felt that was most important, and then leave space for others to come up with cool stuff for it. So that's one thing for sure. More cybertech.
Yeah, but I think there are a lot of spreads that's basically this spread is this random table for this thing. So like cybertech is one spread, and then you have weapons and drugs and nano and whatever. So I think you could basically pick any of those spreads and just expand it and make your own thing.
Yeah,
or
absolutely.
Pick whatever from your favorite sci-fi or cyberpunk media, movie or whatever, and add that and sort of stat that for Cyborg. So I'm hoping that we'll see our community continue to create cool stuff.
Yeah, that's something I really am happy with. The Mork Borg community is that it's so big. It's has so many people creating really awesome stuff. And I noticed that you've also have done some artwork for some of their work as well, which is really cool that everyone's kind of working together to add more really creative content to Mork Borg.
I love it.
Yeah, no, it's great that you can have so much people kind of join you in on this adventure, sort of. Once this game is out there next year, I think June is what the Kickstarter said. I'm sure you guys might be taking a little bit of a well-deserved break, but once you guys get back to creating in the world of Mork Borg and Cyborg, or just RPGs in general, what do you guys hope to be working on? Like, what are you hoping to envision yourself be doing in like a year or so?
I mean, I know for a fact what I'll be doing, because I have a lot of projects just waiting in the pipeline here. So I mean, there's not going to be much rest. I think it's gonna more stuff is coming. definitely.
I hope to get more cyborg stuff, done. But I also have several other different projects that are in different stages of completion, I guess. I don't really have a schedule. I need to do what I have the inspiration for and can like get done at the moment right now, because I mean, we both have day jobs, so this is just something that we do on the side.
We're generally kind of careful in Stockholm Cartel to announce things before they're almost ready, because we don't want to have like the pressure of having to fulfill something that isn't already finished, or to have to work on something, because it is a hobby to us. I know for a fact that a lot of projects are underway and happening. So yeah.
Okay, so we should see more from this world, hopefully pretty soon. And talking about the Kickstarter for my last question, so what's going through your heads right now? Because like had such a big first day, so I'm sure you guys are beyond stoked. And is it true that right now the plan is going to come out like fairly early to middle of next year?
Yeah, that's the goal. I mean, these last couple of days, has it even been days? I don't know. I'm just lost in time and space now, but they have been wild. So this far exceeded our expectations for this.
We beat what we thought was a realistic end point way back now. It seems. So we never expected this to reach where we are now, and we're still like 16 days to go.
Wow.
When this is being recorded, I guess. So yeah, we kind of shocked, I guess.
Yeah, but
and grateful.
Very grateful. Yeah, and I mean the goal is to release it in the summer, and that is mostly because of pandemic related like shipping delays and stuff, just to cover that, because we're not done completely with all the things, but we could probably have fulfilled it sooner had it not been for the state of the international shipping right now. So I don't want to repeat the sort of delays that happened to Heretic because of the pandemic.
So could theoretically the PDF be sent out to people earlier before the game arrives later, because of transportation right now is horrible?
I think it's too early to say that. I mean, generally we want to see people have the physical book in their hands before we send the PDF out, because the physical is so important to us. But yeah, and also I don't know, we added some of the stretch goals, so I think we'll have work to do even after the book is complete, like with the generators and the location, the asset pack and everything. So I think we're not going to sit around and doing nothing, even though the book is sent to print and being put into this hellscape of international shipping. We'll still have stuff to do to complete the items in the Kickstarter.
Sure.
So yeah.
Okay. Awesome.
Sometime in the summer.
It was fun chatting with you guys, and once again, congratulations on the big first day for Kickstarter, and hopefully that continues down the line. At this point, there's probably, by the time this podcast episode is released, there's probably going to be still around 2 weeks or so left on the Kickstarter. For everyone, I will be putting a link to the Kickstarter in the description below. But of course, if you just go to Mork Borg's website, or even on Twitter, there's the Mork Borg Twitter page. Of course, there's a link right there, but it'll be in the podcast description below. I highly recommend, of course, checking it out. Mork Borg's an incredible game, and this looks like it's going to do that and then some extra really cool things. Thank you guys for talking.
Thank you
for having us there. Yeah.
And for everyone, thanks for listening. And the Beer and Pretzel Podcast episodes come out every Tuesday and Friday. Reviews and interviews with game creators come out Tuesday mornings at 10 a.m. and our actual play episodes come out on Fridays. Soonish, we're going to be playing Mork Borg on our actual play section of this podcast. And of course, next year, probably middle of next year, we'll be playing Cyborg eventually, which I'm very excited for. Thanks for listening, everyone. And we'll hear from you next time on the Beer and Pretzel Podcast.